This is love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. Dear friends, since God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God, but if we love one another, God lives in us, and his love is made complete in us. Ellen knew that she was dying, and she knew that there was nothing the doctors could do. It was a shock to her. When you have gastric bypass surgery, they tell you can't drink alcohol, but she did, and admittedly. But the time from when she found out she was sick to when the doctor said there was no hope was a very short time in normal life. But for Steve and Ellen, it was really long. And so Ellen and I had a chance to talk. We talked a lot. We saw her, and anyway, once she was diagnosed, she tried to do everything she could everything that the doctor said she did to try to see if there was some way that she might live long enough to have a liver transplant or something like that. She was realistic about death. She was very bright, as all of you have known her a long time. And she just kept saying she didn't think she'd die this soon. And so from the time of the initial onset, there was a lot of crying and a lot of black humor. One of the things she told me that she wanted me to say at the funeral, which I said up there and I'm telling you now, was that it was fine with her if Steve got a girlfriend after she died, but she did not want to get married for 2 years because it would make her look bad. And I said, because what if the woman has money? Well, that's okay, she said. And then when I was in the third grade, and we were in the third, fourth grade, we were all in the children's choir at church, and when the adults were listening to the sermon and we couldn't do anything about it, we had to sit there. We played endless games of hangman, you know, the little pen where you fill in. And, you know, I never won ever, because, you know, Ellen knew words I had not even imagined. And so I told her when she was sick, and one of the last things we talked about, I said, you know, Ellen, you were one of the smartest people I ever knew. And she cried and she said, thank you for telling me that. And she was really aware of all the support from all the losers and everybody that called and wrote and talked to her. And she wanted me to say that that she just really enjoyed the support and the prayers of everybody in the Losers Club. And when we were teenagers, Ellen and I, we sang, played guitars together, listened to Judy Collins, Toilet Paper Houses, went skinny dipping in the Santa Monica River. But she taught me and a lot of us about art and Europe and 1,000 other things. She was an art history major. When she was dying, she told me that she wanted the service in Sacramento, and she wanted us here. What she said she wanted people to remember who she was, and she wanted people to, at her work, to know who she was. And so I said, great. So anyway, I'm going to read, this is the memoriam that I read at the service. Ellen Mary Kuntz Watson was born January 12, 1953 in Ventura, California. She was the only child born to David and Ruth Kuntz. Ellen's parents came to California from Pennsylvania. Her father was an English professor at Ventura Community College. He also worked for movie studios, reading books and writing synopses for movies. Her mother was a registered nurse. She primarily did private nursing, sometimes for actors such as Loretta Young. When she was young, Ellen traveled with her parents during her father's sabbatical. For a year when she was in grade school, they lived in England. As an adult, she also loved to travel. Her travels led her to Europe, Russia, Hong Kong, and Japan. The Kuntzes attended Trinity Lutheran Church, where Ellen was baptized and confirmed. She was also an active member of the children's choir, teen girls choir, and high school youth group. Ellen attended El Camino Elementary School and Kappa Junior High, graduated in 1971 from Buena High School. In high school, she was a member of the drama club and had leading roles in several plays, and the one I remember was Splendor in the Grass. She was a proud member of the Losers Club, this informal group of friends who gathered around the Wolf family. They received the name because of all the summer nights they spent without dates, named by the Venerable Scott Hood. The Losers Club played cards, Scrabble, went on campouts, had parties, argued politics endlessly, argued period, developed friendships, which continued into adulthood as kind of an extended family. Ellen received her Bachelor of Arts degree from Civic Lutheran University with a major in art history and her Master's of Organizational Management from Antioch University. While in college, she worked as a counselor at a group home for unwed mothers in Washington State. Then she returned home and worked at the Starfree Press in Ventura. At the J. Paul Getty Museum, Ellen worked as a gallery teacher for 6 years and went on to the University of Phoenix, where she worked for 14 years, first as Student Services Administrator at the Southern California campus, then Director of Student Services at Sacramento Valley campus, and she transferred to the Academic Affairs Department as Program Manager for the College of Arts and National Sciences. On April 28, 1990, she married Stephen Watson at a ceremony in Ventura, at which it was my privilege to preside. The Watsons made their home in Ventura until 2003, when they moved to Sacramento area to continue working for the University of Phoenix. Steve and Ellen shared a love of reading, gourmet cooking, fine wine. They enjoyed travel, often vacationed in the Eastern Sierra, where they fly fished. Ellen could clean her own fish, tie flies, and strung up Steve's fishing pole. The Watsons also shared a love of dogs. All three of their dogs, Sarah, Sugar, and Coda, were rescue dogs. They always carried cat food and a leash in every car to help strays. Ellen will be remembered for her knowledge and appreciation of art and music, her sharp wit, her April Fool's jokes at work, and her love of life. She died after a brief illness on December 13, 2010. May God bless the memory of Ellen Mary Kuntz Watson, and may she rest in peace.
Ode to Ellen. Where to begin? When remembering Kuntz and all the antics of the Losers Club, I guess I will start at the beginning. Ellen was my sister's friend. She, like Sue Wolf, saw me as the annoying little sister, certainly not old enough to join in any of the cool Losers events. And so it was that I had two bossy older sisters that decided I should be included only when it suited them. Thus I became the patsy to their bright idea of making wine while they were still not of legal drinking age. The story goes something like this.
Liz, don't listen.
She's not old enough to have...
Never mind.
Oh, Edward.
Goes something like this. Sue Wolf comes home one afternoon and motions me to the bedroom, telling me to be quiet so Mom won't hear. Imagine that. Once in the room, she proceeds to tell me that she and Kuntz are going to make wine, and I have to help them without Mom knowing. Oh no, here we go again. Kuntz then comes around to the side of the house and starts handing me groceries through the window while Sue Wolf stands lookout in the hallway. When the task is complete, Kuntz goes back around to the front of the house and rings the doorbell, casually greeting TL, saying she's just stopping by to Wolf and heads back to the bedroom. Kuntz and Sue hole up in the bedroom and send me out to the kitchen to sneak necessary items, like a cutting board, a knife, etc., to make their wine.
It was apricot wine.
Well, many of you know the rest of the story, but if not, let me summarize.
Sure.
The wine gets stored in the garage, and later, when the deed is revealed to FM, the wine is brought into the house for tasting, and of course, it was awful. Hold on, we have visual aid. A picture of
Pass it around.
I will. And their food.
Where did you find that?
It's frightening.
That is amazing.
This stuff is frightening.
In the evidence locker at the police department.
Whose stories are endless, but that one stands out in my mind as one of the greats. And so I have enclosed a photo of the two proud winemakers with their finished product. But it is not the end of my relationship with Ellen. Somewhere between my sister going off to college and seminary, then Ellen moving back to Ventura after living in Washington, we started hanging out. She drove me and friends to late-night run-in runs and stayed with me when my folks were out of town. The enclosed photo of Ellen, and she did not want me to take her picture. You'll see it when it comes around. She has something over her head and then gesturing politely. Very smiley face, wearing it.
Yeah.
She always enjoyed
This is
learning. She had a
fantastic.
comment for everything, and her wit was
never
skill
knew.
matched for mine. I enjoyed so much when she
Who
and the
else
losers
could
would get
that
going
be,
on
huh?
some subject or person, and Cruz could just cut to the chase and bring the room down. Years later, when I introduced Chris to the losers, she was very welcoming and, of course, funny. We enjoyed many gatherings together in Ventura, and Steve was a great addition to the group, as Chris now had a male to talk to when the loser ladies were on a gab fest. Ellen was one of the first losers and is family to all of us. I am thankful for her friendship and commitment to our Losers Club family all these years. She cared deeply for her friends, and I will miss her presence here with us. I know she'd love to hear our time of sharing and would certainly have a few comments to add in. Forever a loser, we love and miss you all. Connie.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're going somewhere with Ellen. Ellen's going to drive, and she's got her parents' Mercedes. And it's not an automatic. It's a stick shift. And I'm driving with Ellen, and I don't know her very well at this point, right? Because for those of you who know me and those who don't, I was 5'4" when I graduated from high school. I was very tiny. And I might look at people like Ellen, and I look at this picture now, and I go, yeah, that's the Ellen I remember. I thought she was gorgeous, but I don't know why she would ever talk to me because I'm just this little shit. And so, what I remember is we're in her car, and she's driving. It's like, God damn, you can drive this car, girl. I've never seen a girl drive like this. I mean, she's like shifting and cruising, and I'm like, wow, this is great. The other one I remember is we're at the Losers, and we're trying to do a crossword puzzle, of all things, and we're stuck. And Ellen comes in, and she sits down, what are you guys doing? Well, we're just sort of doing this crossword puzzle, we're sort of stuck. And Ellen comes in, and this is her, sort of her history, art, background, whatever it is, and she basically starts, and in a typical Ellen fashion, says, you guys are fucking dumb. I mean, she is just like, oh, yeah, you don't know who you don't know who Issa's wife is? Actually, I don't, no, it's Greek mythology, but no, I don't. Oh, wow, that's so-and-so. And she just wrote it all out. Shit, the crossword puzzle was done in like 10 seconds, you know? And it's like, well, okay, what are you guys doing now? I said, well, nothing, because you finished the puzzle. And that is only, and I'm sure I'll leave for other people to bring up, the best time with Ellen is when she would get into her, she was so smart and was so good at picking out the inconsistencies in all of us. We all have them, and in politics and so many things. When she got onto her sort of what I'll call her cynical, astute rants on people, you couldn't help but sit there and just laugh hysterically. I mean, I can't remember the number of times I've been in stitches where Ellen is just railing on something, and you know she's right. I mean,
Let me pick it up from there. And we call that bitching. Ellen was really good at it, and I actually spoke to Ellen, and when she was, and I said, Ellen, and I didn't put it in the past tense, but I said one thing I've always admired about you is, I'm just going to say, you could cut to the quick with your wit and your sarcasm, and I'll always admire that. And she had the balls to call it like it was with us losers, and it didn't matter who it was or what the circumstance was, and she was right, generally speaking. And I'll never forget Fat Man, who, we appreciate a good bitch. Well, he would always say to Ellen, well, Ellen, how's your mother? So we can hear her go. I love Ellen.
Bob still be talking about his lack of size is certainly understood. But that's a whole other story into itself. For Ellen to be astute enough to notice it is certainly perceptive. She certainly had the quick wit, no doubt about it. Almost at times it could be a little bit on the caustic side, and I certainly received that blessing more than what it takes. And it's funny because you'd be going on and on about whatever, and she'd just be sitting there loading up for it. And then it would come at you, and you had no defense. Don't even try, And so she just had a way of verbally assembling things that were just, indefensible. And I told Steve a little bit about this after Ellen had passed, and that I had had an event several events at the Losers Club, and one night I'd managed to go home. Oh yeah, and I did sell my car back to my parents after they did. I don't want to discount that little moral tidbit. Kind of kidding.
You worry about my side.
Yeah. So anyway, we spent a night at the Losers Club, and we usually get out at about 12 or 1 o'clock, and so I decided to, drive my parents' Toyota Corolla 4-speed home, and I don't know what we were up to that night. I do know what we were up to, but I'm not going to go into it. And so I turned the corner on Telegraph off Ashwood and fell asleep in about 30 feet. I made that turn, and the next thing you know, I was going through that gravel center divider right there by Foster Freeze. Just, whoa, what is going on? And luckily came to a stop, pulled the car over, barely, the rims were all bent and just shot out, and I'm like, oh, now I got to go home and tell Raj and Zora, this is not a good night. I know my parents could be a little unforgiving for that sort of behavior, and rightfully so. And so I didn't know what to do, and so I think, well, Liz obviously was in bed by then, so I didn't want to go back to and then the house was locked up. And so I went over to Ellen's house, and I didn't really know Ellen's family real well or anything. And so I went over to the house, and she had left right before me. So I went there and I started banging on the door, and I'm like just totally out of my mind, like, what am I going to do? And finally, the light comes on, and looks out the window, and then she sees it's me, and still doesn't know if she wants to open the door. You gotta be kidding me, man! I am dying out here. Don't you see my pain? And so finally, she doesn't even open the door the whole way. Right? It isn't like, what's the matter with you, dude? It's like it cracks open, right? And she sticks her head out, like, what? And I'm like, well, I just had a really traumatic experience, and I just fell asleep at the wheel. And I went through the center divider, and I almost got killed. I pulled the car over, and I got to call my parents. And can you give me a ride? And sort of stuff. Figures. That was so cold, but actually, and that was really my first indoctrination with the quick-witted Ellen and how she could surmise the situation pretty quickly, accurately, and make you feel less than but big.
So you all remember going hiking up Santa Paula Canyon, yes?
Yeah.
And I used to bitch at poor Ben because he would haul the cocktail chair up there, and I'd just scream at him for hauling the cocktail chair up into Santa Paula Canyon. And then we'd all want to sit in the cocktail chair once we got there because the ground and those, stumps were a little hard. But anyway, we used to have many, many, many fun times hiking as the LC group up in the Santa Paula Canyon. And Ellen and her caustic humor and her stoic behavior, she was a tough chick, right? Brilliant, smart, and tough. And one season, we're hanging out sunbathing along the creek or the riverbed there, and the bugs were so bad. It was just, we were there at prime time bug season. Every other phrase that came out of her mouth was, "Goddamn bugs!" Goddamn bugs! We sat there for 3 days and listened to Ellen bitch about the goddamn bugs. And so whenever there's a flying goddamn it in the room, I always talk about Ellen and the goddamn bugs. So she's still part of my everyday life when there's flying vermins in the house.